It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Morning, it is Friday, March 13th. Oh no, it's Friday the 13th. I just realized that. Didn't we have one of those recently? Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Mix of sun and clouds today, high 46. The weekend, not terrible, but not like spring like it was last weekend. Saturday, sunshine, high 53. Sunday, cloudy, high 47. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it is 33 and clear in Sag Harbor out on Long Island, 31 and clear in East Brunswick over in New Jersey, and it's 32 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
2 terror attacks have Americans on edge. A sad end in the search for a missing Long Island teen. Did a Bronx landlord kill his tenant's dog? A famed tiny house is up for sale. And we remember our colleague Ernie Anastos. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. The FBI says it was a terror act when a gunman with ISIS ties opened fire at Virginia's Old Dominion University yesterday. The FBI's Dominique Evans talks about the evidence that investigators found.
Prior to him conducting this act of terrorism, he shouted, stated Allah Akbar.
The gunman killed 1, wounded 2. The shooter, identified as Muhammad Baylor Jallo, a former National Guardsman who had pled guilty to trying to provide material support to ISIS back in 2016. He was sentenced to 11 years, released in 2024. The 2 people injured were taken to the hospital in stable conditions. Evans says these ROTC students subdued Jallo, and in her words, render him no longer alive. We heard it was a knife they used. The students did not shoot Jallo.
And rendered him no longer alive. The FBI is now the lead investigative agency investigating this as an act of terrorism.
Yeah, so the FBI talking about the fact that he had been arrested before for his ties to ISIS.
In 2016, Jallo was arrested and pled guilty for attempting to provide material support to ISIL, now known as ISIS.
Yeah, so at his 2017 sentencing, he claimed at the time that he deeply regretted his actions, was disgusted by ISIS. He even apologized to the American military, to the people of the U.S., but apparently he had not changed his ways. 5:02, the person who attacked a Michigan synagogue is dead. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard providing the details about what took place there yesterday.
No kids, this is the important thing, no kids or no staff was injured whatsoever, okay? So we have no victims other than one of the lead security people was hit by the car and was taken to the hospital.
Yeah, so this was like the car ramming. Do you remember the one that took place at the Chabad headquarters not too long ago where a car tried to ram into the front entrance? Similar here, but he got into the building, unlike in the Chabad building in Brooklyn. Police say the vehicle caught fire as security opened fire on the driver.
Everything that was supposed to happen happened. Security did their job, and then the responders did theirs.
Yeah, unfortunately and fortunately in these times, outside big synagogues like this one in West Bloomfield, Michigan, by the way, maybe the largest Jewish community outside New York City. I don't think I'm mistaken about that. They are trained for this kind of thing because, unfortunately, it happens. Bouchard was asked about how fast this driver was going when they rammed their truck into the synagogue.
It's hard to say how fast. I mean, he was traveling with purpose and down the hall from my look at the video.
The security detail did an amazing job taking this guy down. Members of the synagogue talking about what took place in the moments afterwards.
This is senseless. It's senseless. We have to be better than this. This is not okay. I've never seen anything like this. My first thing, to be honest, were the children. There's a whole, daycare program in there, and parents and grandparents have been coming, and they're scared to death for their children.
True of many synagogues across the country have nursery schools in their building. Lots of Jewish kids educated in nursery schools across the country, and there's growing outrage after that attack on the Michigan synagogue. Here's Democratic Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
And I'm so sick
of another one of these incidents all the time in my community, across the country. And I think we need to acknowledge that we have a problem.
Yeah, so Slotkin went on to say that everyone has the right to worship.
Everyone deserves the right to worship in peace. Everyone. And an act of anti-Semitism, an act of violence, of hate, should be treated to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah, so many synagogues, a lot of places of houses of worship, not just synagogues, have protection now outside their buildings, have for a while. I know the one that I should say sometimes belong to, they have an armed guy, a guy with a gun. So Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer posting online saying that Michigan's Jewish community should be able to live and practice its faith. So two big incidents, the one in Michigan, of course, the one in Old Dominion where one person was taken out, but a good job done by the security at the synagogue in Michigan, and an amazing job done by these ROTC members at Old Dominion down in Virginia. 5:05, Israel's military announcing the start of new extensive waves of strikes on Iran's capital, Tehran, this morning. I was watching this correspondent who was in Tehran this morning talking about the fact that it hasn't been like less than 2 hours that have gone by where he hasn't heard explosions outside his hotel, loud explosions, one that shake the building that he's in, the hotel that he's in. There's also been attacks today on Lebanon's capital, Beirut. 2 people have been killed today in Oman after the downing of a drone there. I don't know what that's all about, but assuming that it's from Iran. Iran's supreme leader, the new one, Mojtaba Khamenei, issuing his first statement since replacing his assassinated father, calling for bases that hosting U.S. forces in the region to close or attacks will continue. Saudi Arabia this morning says air defenses there shot down 8 more drones in the central and eastern regions of the country. UN Refugee Agency saying this morning that 3.2 million people have been displaced in Iran due to the attacks that started on February 28th. And a U.S. military refueling tanker that's part of Operation Epic Fury, that crashed in western Iraq.
U.S. Central Command says it's aware of the loss of a KC-135 Stratotanker and that 2 aircraft were involved in the incident. One of the aircraft went down in western Iraq while the other landed safely. CENTCOM says the incident happened in friendly airspace and was not due to hostile or friendly fire. The status of the crew is unknown, but officials say rescue efforts are ongoing.
The president remarking on the war in Iran yesterday, saying that he thinks it's moving along pretty rapidly.
They really are a nation of terror and hate, and they're paying a big price right now.
The president says the military is doing a great job in the war in Iran.
The situation with Iran is moving along very rapidly. It's doing very well. Our military is unsurpassed. There's never been anything like it. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
Iran now warning that oil prices could reach $200 a barrel as the war with the U.S. and Israel approaches the 2-week mark. More from correspondent Richard Angle.
Iran's strategy is now clear. A war on global trade. So the more Iran suffers, the more everyone else will too. But as Israeli and U.S. strikes on Iran's military aircraft, leaders, and bases intensify, Iran's capabilities are going down rapidly.
And Iran's new Ayatollah says the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed and Iran will ramp up attacks on its neighbors in the Gulf.
An Iranian official now saying the world should brace for oil to reach $200 a barrel. A military spokesman saying we will never allow a single liter of oil to pass through the Strait of Hormuz for the benefit of the United States, the Zionist regime, or their partners.
Yeah, and back here in New York, we could catch a break as the price of gas skyrockets with the war in Iran. The Governor Hochul, not ruling out giving New Yorkers a gas tax holiday, but she's reminding people what happened after she issued one back in 2022.
Does anybody remember that? I don't think even people felt it, because you know what happened? The price just went even higher. So I'm going to look at all the plans we have to possibly reduce it, but we could use as a federal excise.
Yeah, the governor says she would prefer if President Trump suspended the federal gas tax instead. Questions about a deadly police-involved shooting in Connecticut, both about the shooting itself and what cops did after now.
Deshaun Brest was shot by Bridgeport, Connecticut police in March 2025 after running from them, they say, with a gun in his hand. A state inspector general's report says officers asked the first paramedics on scene to take an officer to the hospital instead of Brest after they shot him. She was suffering from an anxiety attack. Brest's ambulance came 10 minutes later. The 39-year-old died at the hospital. The state report does not say if the delay contributed to his death. I'm Andrew Whitman.
From Connecticut, let's go down to Florida and down south. Spring break travelers could face more headaches as this partial government shutdown, it continues. More from correspondent Tom Costello.
1 month in, and the funding fight on Capitol Hill is now taking a toll at airports nationwide. Morale among TSA staffers diminishing as officers are forced to work without a paycheck, some struggling just to afford the basics.
The TSA says 300 of its staffers have quit their jobs just since the start of this shutdown, and call-outs have tripled over the last couple weeks. TSA employees will miss their first full paycheck today, and it's feared that could worsen staffing shortages at airports because people don't necessarily want to work when they don't get a paycheck.
In Las Vegas, one of the casinos delivered lunch to unpaid TSA staffers, while the Denver airport is collecting $10 and $20 grocery and gas gift cards to help officers just get by. The TSA says 300 have now quit just since the start of the shutdown. Meanwhile, call-outs are tripling, all of it contributing to major backups at security checkpoints, including a 3+ hour wait at Houston Hobby earlier in the week.
Now, by the way, I should point out these TSA agents, they don't make a whole lot of money. The last time there was a government shutdown, remember that one in the fall? They held food pantries at the airports so this TSA agents could get by because they were having a hard time getting groceries, paying for groceries. TSA officer Angelita Reed says she's trying to scrape by now that she knows no paychecks coming today.
Everything is a struggle. I do feel forgotten about. How long is this one going to last? We don't know. And every day we're just wondering, will we get our check soon?
Yeah, it's so unfair to those workers. In a moment, we will tell you how the Artemis II, this first flight, manned flight to the moon, since last time we sent a manned flight to the moon, I think it was 1972, if I'm not mistaken, is back on track. We'll get into that story in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Friday the 13th. Justin Ellick, good morning.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. It's like the second Friday the 13th in like a month.
Yeah, there was one just a couple weeks ago. Well, the last time there was the 13th. Maybe it was February 13th.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not very scary outside, even though it is cold. After a couple of 70-degree days earlier this week, that's a little scary.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm fine. I'm not too worried about Friday the 13th. I'm not a very superstitious person.
No, okay.
Yeah, you're either a winner or you're a loser, Noam Layden. Pick one.
And it has nothing to do with it being Friday the 13th.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. Big East men's...
What a happy note.
Yeah. Big East men's basketball tournament at MSG. We're into the semifinals after the quarters yesterday. St. John's beat Providence 85-72, and Seton Hall beat Creighton 72-61. So you get St. John's as 7.5-point favorites today against Seton Hall. That is a 5:30 p.m. tip-off.
That's going to be a good game.
Oh, yeah. Tonight, I bet Joe Nolan will be there.
Well, hopefully he'll be able to make it. He didn't make it yesterday.
He didn't make it yesterday?
No, because New Jersey Transit didn't get him there.
Oh, my God. What a nightmare.
Yeah, don't go near him today.
No. New Jersey Transit.
Oh, no.
You know, if someone's listening and they want to pick up Joe and drive him to the game, I bet he would like that.
Oh, boy. Joe. Man, well, at least they didn't lose. At least they still won. He's got another shot to get there.
But today's game's going to be great. You don't want to miss out.
No. Joe, you got to get there. Joe, you got to figure that out.
What time's the game?
5:30. He's got more than enough time to figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's a noon game.
No, but, New Jersey Transit's got to be reliable.
Yeah.
Got to get you there.
Just order a car, Joe. Do yourself a favor.
That's expensive.
Well, do you want to be at the game or not?
No, you're true.
Come on, it's Friday the 13th. What can go wrong?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And then after UConn's 93-68 win over Xavier and Georgetown 78-64 upset win over Villanova, you get Georgetown and UConn in the other semifinal today. The Huskies, they're 13.5-point favorites, and that tip-off is set for 8 p.m. Head to the professional hardwood in Atlanta. The Nets lost 108-96 77 to the Hawks. Up next for Brooklyn, they'll host the Milwaukee Bucks tomorrow. The Knicks, they're back at it tonight in Indiana against the Pacers. That is a 7:30 p.m. start there. On the ice last night, your final from New Jersey. Devils, they got edged out by the Flames 5-4, and the Rangers, they doubled up the Jets in Winnipeg 6-3. Tonight on the ice, the Islanders, they're back at it. They'll welcome in the LA Kings for a 7 p.m. puck drop. And Team USA is back in action tonight for the World Baseball Classic quarterfinal action. They go up against Canada. That is an 8 p.m. first pitch tonight. That is your Sports Know, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. The Artemis II test flight around the moon could launch as early as April 1st.
All the teams polled go to launch and fly Artemis II around the moon, pending completion of some of the work before we roll out to the launch pad.
That's the NASA spokesperson Lori Glaze announcing the new target date after the latest flight readiness review for the crewed mission. NASA had plans to launch the Artemis II earlier this month, but rescheduled, I should say, after engineers found that helium leak in the fueling system.
Pending completion of the work in the VAB and at the pad, we are on track for a launch as early as April 1st.
Yeah, it's exciting. NASA says they're confident they fixed this helium leak.
Our ground systems and SLS teams came up with a design fix. That design fix was implemented on a test article, and we have successfully tested it, and we have qualified it for use on Artemis II.
So the new launch window is April 1st through April 6th. This would be the first crewed mission to the moon since Apollo 17 all the way back in 1972. Live Nation workers under fire now for bragging about price gouging customers.
The company reached a tentative settlement with the DOJ recently in a case that had threatened to separate it from its subsidiary, Ticketmaster. A 2022 conversation between regional directors of ticketing Ben Baker and Jeff Weinhold were revealed in newly released court documents during the case. Baker wrote that, quote, "These people are stupid for paying high fees," with Weinhold saying, "I almost feel bad taking advantage of them." Live Nation previously wanted to exclude the exchanges from the antitrust trial, while an attorney for the DOJ argued that it gave a real look into how the company viewed prices. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Let's go out to California. Another sexually violent predator there being granted what's called elderly parole. California Board of Parole Hearings has released 57-year-old Gregory Vogelsang, who was sentenced to over 350 years for child sex crimes back in the 1990s.
After serving only 27 years of a 355 to life sentence, after he molested, after he kidnapped, after he forcibly sexually assaulted 6 young boys.
Yeah, it's one of the district attorneys upset that this is happening. It comes after David Funston, who served 3 life terms for kidnapping and child sex abuse, was also released under the state's elder parole program, but he was rearrested, now facing new charges. As for Vogelsang, he admits he's still attracted to young boys. They're letting this guy out. Despite being considered higher risk than most sex offenders, he has been granted elderly parole. Now, these same district attorneys say that they're asking for the decision to be reviewed by the entire parole board again.
This inmate will molest again, and yet this parole board is letting him out. And they're letting him out under one of the most horrible, unjust laws that we have in the state of California. Elder parole.
Yeah, I mean, this is nonsense. A hearing is set for March 18th. The public encouraged to attend. Those attorneys who work to put these guys behind bars say they will be there as well. President Trump, First Lady, down in Washington yesterday, marking Women's History Month.
From Martha Washington to Betsy Ross, from Clara Barton to Amelia Earhart, and Rosa Parks to Aretha Franklin, American women have propelled us to even greater heights. America has been strengthened beyond measure by the courage, by the spirit, love, devotion, and the incredible woman. I mean, all of these incredible women
The President and First Lady inviting a huge crew of women to that ceremony yesterday at the White House. 1 in 5 heart attacks in the U.S. are now occurring in people who are under the age of 40.
Heart attacks are no longer a concern, mostly limited to older adults. The American College of Cardiology says there's been a dramatic shift toward younger people since the start of the 21st century among the under 40 group. Cardiologists say the rise in obesity and type 2 diabetes are major factors. So are family history of heart disease, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. They recommend knowing your numbers, getting exercise, eating a healthy diet, and trying to eliminate chronic stress. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
Meanwhile, roughly 1/3 of Americans apparently cutting back on at least one daily expense to afford health insurance.
A new West Health Gallup survey found about 33% of respondents had cut back on an expense to pay for health care last year. When looking at those who do not have health insurance, 62% said they made such trade-offs, while nearly 3 in 10 respondents with insurance said they made at least one sacrifice. Findings come as data for the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services show open enrollment in Affordable Care Act marketplace plans dropped by about 1.2 million from last year to this year. I'm Monica Nelson.
How about one more health story? Surveys show nearly half of adults now use those sleep trackers, but one sleep expert says they're not totally accurate. Sleep specialist Samuel Gurvich with the Cleveland Clinic says these sleep trackers monitor movement and type of movement and will estimate if you're sleeping, but the numbers actually could be sort of off.
So if you're looking for really granular data, like how much deep sleep you're getting or REM sleep you're getting, these trackers tend to be much less reliable.
Yeah, I see my kids do this thing. They look at their sleep data. I don't really totally get it. I know that I don't sleep a lot and the sleep isn't that great, and that's enough for me.
In that study, we invite patients into the laboratory where we're actually looking at their brain activity along with their breathing and their heart rate and other parameters. And we can tell for sure, are they sleeping or not, and what stage of sleep you're in.
Yeah, he said you should probably go in and check with the doctor if you're having problems sleeping so they can bring you into one of those sleep disorder clinics and check out what's going on. Okay, today is Friday the 13th, and that does terrify millions of Americans.
Millions of people in this country have a paralyzing fear of Friday the 13th. Some won't go to work today, some won't eat in restaurants, and many would never plan their wedding for Friday the 13th. No one is exactly sure where the legend of Friday the 13th being unlucky began, though researchers feel the superstition is very old. Folklore experts say it's the combination of Friday and 13, as both the day and the number have historically been connected to bad luck. I'm Mark Neef.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Friday, March 13th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Mix of sun and clouds today, the high 46. Saturday, sunshine, high 53. And then Sunday, cloudy, high 47. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are, it's 33 and clear in Sag Harbor out on Long Island. It's 31 and clear in East Brunswick over in New Jersey. And it's 32 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:39 was so sad when I saw the news that Ernie Anastos had passed away yesterday at the age of 82. His family said he died of pneumonia yesterday at Northern Westchester Hospital. We knew here, because he had been working here, that he had not been well. He spent 11 years at WABC TV from 1978 through 1989. He also anchored news. It felt like he was on every single network, right? I mean, he didn't, he was at so many stations over the years, but it was ABC. He then went to CBS. He was at Channel 5 for a long time, and he was also at WWOR, Channel 9. And he was involved in so many of the biggest stories, covered some of the biggest stories in New York City during the time that he anchored.
Good evening. I'm Ernie Anastos. We have another developing story to tell you about tonight, a spectacular fire aboard a fireworks bar.
We have something to show you now, and that is probably, the sight that just can bring tears to your eyes for many people in this city. This is our New York skyline, and there's something really missing there.
Yeah, that was him right after the 9/11 attacks. recently, Ernie had talked about the connection he made with viewers in New York. And if you were ever with him out on the street, he got stopped everywhere. Everybody wanted to shake his hand or take a picture with him or tell him about a moment they remember him from anchoring the news.
When you're out on the street and people come to you and they say, I was watching you last night, and they'll tell you what you were reporting. They'll tell you about perhaps a comment that you had made, something very personal, something that makes you really understand that they were watching this thing. They weren't just, flipping down, just passing by. They were sitting down and paying attention to what you were talking about. That's very personal, very personal.
Ernie, incredibly proud of his Greek heritage. There was not a diner in the tri-state, or if you've stepped in any diner across the tri-state, there was always a picture of Ernie, a smiling Ernie at the cash register.
You couldn't go into a Greek diner anywhere in New York for a generation and not see a picture of a smiling Ernie Anastos hanging there behind the cashier. He was like the patron saint of the Greek diners, looking down on you and giving you a little bit of a blessing with that million-watt smile.
And I'll talk about me geeking out when I met Ernie Anastos, which was about 25 years ago at a New York Press Association Christmas party. And the Christmas party was pretty tame. And at some point they said, okay, we're going to do karaoke. And they could not get anybody to stand up and do karaoke at this party until Ernie did. Okay. And Ernie got up and he sang Volare. And he got me to come up and some others to sing with him. And I hadn't seen him for a while until I returned here to WABC almost 4 years ago. And they hired Ernie here. And as somebody who always wanted to be a journalist, and then to be in the same room with Ernie and having these great conversations with him, it was one of the thrills and will always be one of the thrills of my lifetime. He was, I just can't tell you what a stupendous individual he was, always with a great story to tell, just the kindest guy. And so sorry to see that he passed away. In recent years here, he developed this program that you'll hear, I'm sure, today, because he was producing them. They were called Positively Ernie, where he just found the positive things in life because he spent so many years telling us, horrible stories on the news, and he didn't want to be known only as that guy. And it was so appropriate that he did Positively Ernie because he was probably one of the most optimistic people you could ever know. So, of course, we extend our heartfelt condolences to his family, and on his death at 82. Anyway, sad to hear. 5:43. I was watching this yesterday. The widow of an NYPD detective who was shot and killed in Queens in 2024. She took the stand yesterday. Detective Jonathan Diller's wife, Stephanie Diller, giving emotional testimony about the death of her husband at the murder trial of the accused killer, Guy Rivera. Stephanie testified yesterday about the day she found out her husband had been murdered. He had taken off work to spend time with her, and then he got called into work. And then she got a call from a friend saying, hey, did you see that a cop had been shot? And at that moment, she was pretty sure it wasn't her husband. But then she said a number of hours later, she got a call, or an hour later, she got a call from her husband's supervisor saying that, yes, it was her husband who had been killed. So the 31-year-old who was testifying in this case yesterday, her voice cracking as she described being transported to the hospital by an NYPD helicopter and waiting with family for doctors to come and talk to them, and then having that moment where she said that she found out her husband had died. The couple has a son who was 15 months old at the time. He's now 3 years old. The trial, that will resume come on Monday. In a moment, we'll tell you about this man who pushed these two individuals onto the subway tracks at the 63rd Lexington Avenue station. He should have never been here. We'll tell you his story in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. And here's Justin Ella.
Thank you, Noam Layden. Start here with collegiate basketball on the hardwood at MSG. Quarterfinals for the Big East tournament yesterday saw St. John's beat Providence 85-72, and Seton Hall beat Creighton 72-61. So you get the Johnnies 7.5-point favorites later on today against Seton Hall. That is a 5 7:30 p.m. tip-off this evening after UConn's 93-68 win over Xavier yesterday and Georgetown's 78-64 upset win over Villanova. You get Georgetown versus UConn in the other semifinal later on tonight at 8 p.m. The Huskies in that one are 13.5-point favorites. Head to the professional hardwood in Atlanta where the Nets lost 108-97 to the Hawks. Up next for Brooklyn, they'll host the Milwaukee Bucks tomorrow. Tonight, the Knicks, they're back in action at 7:30 out in Indiana against the Pacers. On the ice last night, your final from New Jersey, Devils getting edged out by the Flames 5-4, and out in Winnipeg, the Rangers doubled up the Jets 6-3. Tonight, the Islanders, they'll return to the ice at home. They'll welcome in the LA Kings for a 7 p.m. puck drop. And also tonight at 8 p.m., that's your first pitch for United States versus Canada in the World Baseball Classic quarterfinal there. Team USA back at it, looking to punch their ticket to the semis. That is your Sports Noah, man. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:50. All right, we're finding it out. It was a Honduran man here illegally. He was the guy who shoved two people onto the subway tracks at the 63rd Lexington Avenue station on Sunday. A 30-year-old is recovering. An 83-year-old that he shoved onto the tracks has not woken up. His name is Richard Williams, an Air Force veteran who remains hospitalized and is on a ventilator. The man who committed this crime, or I should say allegedly committed this crime, he snuck back into the country 5 different times after being deported. I mean, that's outrageous. So here is Richard Williams' daughter who says, her father should be alive today if this Honduran hadn't been able to sneak back into the country.
He sustained significant head injuries. He's on a respirator right now. He's not awake. He's not responding.
Yeah,
we're praying for a miracle.
Yeah, and of course everybody's praying for a miracle.
He had to use significant force because my father's not stupid enough to stand in front of the line. Can I say that he should get the death penalty?
You can. Hernandez has 15 prior arrests for charges including simple assault, domestic violence, obstruction of police, possession of a weapon, drug possession, aggravated assault. This according to the Department of Homeland Security, but somehow he was back in the country to commit that crime. 5:52, a federal judge handing President Trump his first win in the New York, New Jersey's Gateway Tunnel Project lawsuit.
Judge Richard Hertling of the Federal Claims Court in Washington has dismissed 6 of 8 counts in the lawsuit over the Trump administration temporarily freezing funds for a new rail tunnel under the Hudson River. That happened last October and led to 1,000 construction worker layoffs, stopping work on the $16 billion project for more than a week last month. The judge says the case is mostly moot because the feds had resumed the flow of $200 million that had frozen. New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill's response: we will continue to fight and continue to win if Donald Trump tries to illegally stop funding again. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
Speaking of the governor, her and other dignitaries taking the first ceremonial train yesterday over the new Portal Bridge where there's problems this morning. You can't make that up. Governor Mikey Sherrill called the bridge beautiful at this ribbon-cutting ceremony.
Again and again, we saw the commute get worse and worse, degrading over time. This is such a key part of the project, and this alone, I think, will really make commuters' lives better.
Yeah, well, you thought they would, but there's already wires down that are making that commute just awful this morning. The bridge is the main rail line connecting northern New Jersey and Manhattan, replaces a 116-year-old bridge over the river that had to be opened and closed for boat traffic. That won't be the case here. So starting Monday, commuters will get to ride the rails over this new Portal Bridge. That's assuming they fix whatever's wrong today.
450 trains go over it every single day, of which 350 are New Jersey Transit and 100 are Amtrak.
That's the head of New Jersey Transit Amtrak President Roger Harris patting himself on the back. High praise for this new Portal Bridge that they were part of.
It's transformational in terms of 21st century infrastructure.
built to operate reliably for many, many decades to come.
Okay, but I will point out you can't get over the bridge today because there's wires down. The body of a missing Long Island teenager found floating in Brooklyn waters more than 2 months after he mysteriously vanished in New York City. Thomas Medlin's body was positively identified yesterday after it was recovered in the waters off Red Hook over the weekend. The 15-year-old, who's from Long Island, had been last seen on surveillance footage walking across the Manhattan Bridge in early January on the night that he went missing, just moments before cameras caught an ominous splash in the East River, with the boy never seen in footage walking off the platform. Medlin's family had previously suspected foul play and that their child may have fled to the city to meet with a stranger that he had met on Roblox, which is one of those online games. It sparked a massive citywide search, but police debunked that theory. They say there's no indication of criminal activity, but just an awful ending for that family on Long Island. Up to the Bronx, where police are investigating the death of a dog found in Bedford Park in the Bronx. Joe Mendez said he had his dog Sky for 7 years, and the dog was found dead after she fell or was pushed off of this roof of this building on East 199th Street. Now, neighbors say their doorbell cameras caught the dog climbing the stairs to the roof, something they say had never happened before, followed by the landlord of the building. And they're now convinced that the landlord threw this dog off the roof. Well, here's the dog's own.
That was my kid, honestly speaking. It's not the same without her. I ended up seeing her on her side, covering the side I was hit. And it was one of my fears for a long time, and it came true in the worst way.
I mean, just an awful thing. So based on all the neighbors and what they witnessed in the doorbell cameras, a number of people have them, so you can see the dog going up the stairs, followed by the landlord. The landlord comes down alone, and then later the dog is found dead. Now, police are involved. They have not made any arrests yet, but everybody in this building is convinced the landlord did it.
He took away a family member from us. He didn't take a pet. It's something unforgettable. It's something that I will never forgive him for.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Let's hope they cuff this guy if that ends up being true story. And we'll end with this one. What is it with Lululemon? Everybody wants to get their hands on the clothing. It's really expensive, but I feel like these are commercials for Lululemon.
Aloe is taking them over.
No, but they're not, though.
No?
Because there have been so many robberies of Lululemon stores that I can't even count them. So the latest one, $56,000 worth of clothing stolen from a Lululemon in Brooklyn and Manhattan. There's been 8 separate incidents. The latest one took place in Williamsburg. They've happened, all of these robberies, between February 7th and March 3rd. And you don't see anybody trying to break into the Gap to steal clothing. It's all Lululemon.
It's interesting that it's that particular type of clothing. Like, I feel like activewear.
This area in general is not really the place for that type of stuff either, so I'm quite surprised. I know if I was working that would be really stressful for me.
Yeah, and what's awfully frightening is these happened while workers have been in the store some of the time. They've cleared out clothing, and the thought is they're just selling them on the secondary market because people want to get their hands on Lululemon, but they don't want to pay full price.
I mean, you see these women walk around the streets of New York City, that's all they wear, are those black stretch pants. And again, what's funny is right here, a couple blocks away on 3rd Avenue, you've got a Lululemon right across the street from Aloe. And both of those brands now are extremely popular and very similar in style. But I told you that years ago when I was forced to move to Brookfield Plaza, the Gateway Plaza down by the water, after my house had that water damage, I'd walk past a Lululemon in the mall there, and they had this huge sign, Noam, in the window. And the sign talked about how bad capitalism is. I swear to God, they're selling sweatpants for $120.
The cheapest ones are $120.
Right. Sweatpants, and they have a sign in the window how they disdain capitalism. And you come into our store, we're your friends. I mean, Lululemon is woke with a capital W.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?